All right, welcome back to Strength Club. My name is Byron Johnston. I'll be your host today for the podcast. I'm based in the United Kingdom, a starting strength coach over here, and I'm delighted to have back with me Adam Martin from Atlanta, starting strength coach as well. Adam, thanks for coming back on the show.
My pleasure.
So, what's happening in Atlanta at the moment? Things ticking over nicely. What's going on over there? Tell me?
Yeah, just traffic jams and homicides, man. Just
Okay.
another day in Atlanta. No, it's good, man. It's good. We're headed into fall here, and the weather's starting to cool down just a little bit, which is always very welcome in the South. Everybody in the South
Yeah.
loves to see the weather kind of chill for a little bit. We've kind of get punished with heat, but all's good here, man. Things are good in the gym. I had one of my most favorite clients this morning, Dr. Ron. Dr. Ron is a urologist, gotten quite strong. He's deadlifting now, I think, a set of 5 at about 345 this morning, and he's absolutely loving his strength journey. And man, he just gets me excited about this every time I spend time with him. Right? We're talking about longevity and staying strong as we age, and we have the best discussions as it relates to the marrying of medicine and barbell training. We all have somebody that we just absolutely love their material, and we follow them, and we're mentored by them. Not directly, actually, I don't know this gentleman, Dr. Sullivan, that wrote the Barbell Prescription. I've never met Dr. Sullivan yet, but
Me
his
neither.
teachings, man. Oh, his teachings are just phenomenal. I watch everything he does. I read everything he writes. And he just gets me very excited about this thing that we do, Byron. I mean, he really gets me pumped up, man.
Yeah. I'm hoping at some point to head over to his gym, Gray Steel. I think he's
Me
Michigan.
too.
I think it's Michigan. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
and just have
Farmington,
like a few
Michigan.
days. Yeah, and so shout out to Sully, shout out to Dr. Sullivan at Gray Steel, who's just a formidable coach. And if anyone
Oh,
is tuning in who's like an older lifter, that is amazing source material for the process of what we do with the body as we age, how to train the body, basically for over 40s and way beyond, how to do that and why to do it as well. So he unpacks some of the biology of the aging of the body as well in his book, The Barbell Prescription, which he co-wrote with Andy Baker, also a starting strength coach. Massively recommend that book. It's when I first read it, I mean, it just lit up. It just lit everything up. I would go so far as to say there's a lot of people in the healthy aging space at the moment. There's a lot of big names, very trendy names. I think for me, he's probably like in terms of exercise in the body. I think he's probably like easily in the top 3 in the world, if not the number 1
oh,
person people should be listening to. And why he's not been on the more major podcasts, it baffles me. But that's perhaps a subject for another discussion. Yeah.
same.
But,
If we can use this platform as a bit of an echo chamber, I would encourage all of you look at Gray Steel on YouTube,
yep.
read the Barbell Prescription, follow Dr. Sullivan. I would almost guarantee you that within 10 minutes of listening or reading his writings, that you too will become a Solonite, right? I mean, he gets me pumped up to do this, man. I mean, he really does. I'm a fan of Dr. Sullivan. He is just phenomenal, man. He is just phenomenal. And what he's doing for your parents and my parents and your grandparents, it's unrivaled in the world. It is damn unrivaled in the world. There are very few people that are making the mark on strength conditioning that Sully is making. I'm telling you right now, to your point, he's top 3 in the world. If you want to live a life, a longevity, and when you start thinking about quality of life, health span, and lifespan, as Dr. Attia has taught us, man, it's just phenomenal. So to see his teachings.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so guys, if you're just tuning in and joining us, welcome to Strength Club Podcast. Please hit like and subscribe on the platform that you're viewing this on. That really helps us out with getting the word out. And by all means, share our content. If you see it on Instagram, wherever you're tuning into, that really helps get the word out about what we're doing. On the podcast today, we're going to be doing some Q&A. So I've got some paper questions here that have been sent in, and we've got the usual form checks, which we're going to be getting to very soon. If you're struggling with your lifts, then through the Starting Strength app, you can also submit questions or your form check, and we'll have a look at that for you and get you helped out. But today we're going to start with the first question, Adam. This comes from James. who I believe is in the UK. And he asks, how often do you guys use the books to refer back to?
Yeah, daily. I've read the book a number of times, but I pull the book daily. Maybe I'm speaking with a client.
Mm,
We're talking about deadlift setup, or talking about squat depth, or any number of things as it relates to training, Byron. And I
mm,
reference not only do I reference Starting Strength third edition, but I also reference the Barbell Prescription daily and practical programming. Those should be everybody that's listening today. They absolutely should read each of those books. They should have those in their training library. Do you agree, Byron?
yeah, yeah, 100%. Those books are just like they unpack the nuts and bolts of the most effective way I've ever encountered. And I've looked at a lot of different things and I've tried a lot of different things on my journey, and nothing was more effective than using Starting Strength. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Starting Strength coach, because I did the training myself before I became an SSC. And before I got into all of this, I had everybody's dream job. I was a professional guitarist in the music business, traveling around the world. I had literally people's dream job, and I stopped all of that because that's how certain I was about Starting Strength. So there's that. So to answer James's question, yeah, I agree with that. Even when I'm doing video reviews with people, I will even sometimes have a screenshot loaded up from one of the books to show some exactly the position I'm talking about, or something we're discussing in. So yeah, fairly frequently, my copy of the blue book, that's the main book, Starting Strength third edition. It's literally, the pages are almost peeling apart. It's covered in ink. The thing is close to disintegration, because that's how much I've been through that book.
Yeah, and when you compare, I was just talking about this recently with a client in the gym. When you compare um, or excuse me, when you kind of pull both of these books out, they're entirely different in their content, right? Barbell Prescription is not necessarily a how to perform the lifts book, right? The Barbell Prescription is going to give you all the peripheral stuff about why you should be doing this, why you should be training, and the blue book, as we affectionately call it, Starting Strength Basic Barbell Training Third Edition, that's going to detail why we
Mm,
want you to do these lifts the way we do. And folks that have enjoyed training with a Starting Strength coach, you will recall that we're often talking about, whether it be your hips in the deadlift or your knees in the squat or whatever the case is. We're very, very particular about the way that we not only teach, but we coach these lifts. And man, those two books together, I would suggest a lot of times reading the Barbell Prescription first, because that's
mm,
going to get you really, like it does
mm,
me, man. It's going to get you really pumped
mhm.
up about
Yeah,
training and about a physical lifestyle.
yeah. That's one of the books. So that Barber Prescription, when I'm discussing things with lifters, I say often I start them on that one because it puts the mind in the right place to then get
Right.
into the serious complexities of understanding the physics of the lifts as well. But once you've loaded that book in, and someone's absorbed that, there's almost no doubt in the mind, because that book is that detailed. So yeah, hopefully, James, that answers your question about the books. And we're going to go into our next question now. This is kind of a two-parter, and this comes from Body of Gratitude is her account. I think her name is Crystal, actually. She follows me. Shout out to you, Crystal. Your question. So Crystal's a lady lifter. So she is saying recommendations for how to program partials or push past sticking points on lifts. And the second part of this is advice on the Texas method for women intermediate lifters. So I think I can see a picture that's happened with her lifting. I think from reading those questions, I can see that she's kind of gone through a period of time, probably done the novice phase, and now it's intermediate territory,
Hmm.
which is kind of wide open depending on what you're doing, and which makes answering a question like this somewhat tricky. I think you might agree, Adam. When you can't see the lifter or their lifts or anything of that nature, it's a difficult one to answer. So if I may go first, and then I'll please chime in with your points. But Crystal, So with this, the first thing I would recommend before you change anything in the programming is if you have not had coaching, if you've not had anyone look at your lifts, get someone to look at your lift. So whether or not you, if you're in the US, if you give Adam a shout and just link up with him and do a video call with him, just making sure, because sometimes if the leverages are off on your exercises, that can cause you for an exercise to stall when actually you're strong enough to progress, but not if the bar is in the wrong position relative to you. Okay. So before we change the program, the first thing you want to do is just make sure, have I got the technique dialed in? All right, that's what I wanted to open with. Adam, I think I'll hand the ball to you for a minute.
No, you're absolutely right. When number one, I'm very appreciative that that people come to us and they ask for our opinions on these things. So I want to provide as much information as I can based on the question that you asked. And while I hate to use this answer, it's absolutely appropriate in most cases and most topics. Is it depends. Whenever you,
It's so true.
yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, I suspect what she's really talking about is the naturally occurring shift in training that occurs from the novice phase to the intermediate phase of training. I
Yeah.
often tell my clients that the novice phase can be a seductive mistress, that we get accustomed to putting more weight on the bar. And, your first 3, 4, 5, 6 months can absolutely be so rewarding because you're talking about significant pounds added to the bar. Now, inevitably, that's going to begin to slow down at some juncture. And Crystal, when that happens, what we're really talking about here, in all fairness, we're talking about a stress equation, and we're talking about more stress and less stress. So let's understand that that's what we're talking about as it relates to the natural occurring slowdown of the lifts between the novice and intermediate phase. I hope that kind of makes sense. So what we really have to do is structure your training in such a way that we can increase the level of stress where appropriate and decrease the level of stress where appropriate, right? It's exactly why in the latter part of your LP, why we might do a top set and drop sets and such things, right, Byron?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think one of the key things I want you to take away, Crystal, from this question, and this applies to everyone really, when you're moving from the novice phase, late novice, early intermediate, is what we generally do not do, unless there's some kind of very specialist case, we don't pick up an entire program and drop in an entire new program on everything. Okay.
Right.
What will happen is we'll use a process of minimum changes effective to what you need for the exercise that you need at the time that you need it. Okay. And this might mean that you experience a program adjustment in, let's say, your shoulder press before your squat or your deadlift. And eventually, if you take the timeline out long enough, they'll all eventually switch over. They'll all eventually switch across into intermediate. But we use this minimum effective change approach when it's needed for you to move you into the intermediate. So we won't just pick up all of Texas method. It's unlikely, and then just drop that on you. So straight away, from 3 sets of 5, which are getting heavy, suddenly 5 sets of 5. I rarely will do that. It's more likely we'll notch it up. We think you need a little bit more of the signal of the stimulus of the training. So we'll go from 3 sets of 5 up to 4 sets of 5. It might be, Crystal, in your training, if you haven't done it already and you're still on sets of 5, you might want to experiment with flipping to sets of 3 if you haven't done that yet. So triples work very well in that regard when we're training women. So if you haven't done that, try that switch. But you know that, as Adam said, the dial has got to go up of the signal we're sending to your body. So we're going to have to look at more of a signal going to it. So some more sets, reps, we have to increase that tonnage. But for part by part, when you need a lift, just go after that lift. If the others are ticking along just fine, and you're making progress on things like squats and deadlifts, nothing to change. Nothing to change if it doesn't need to be changed, okay?
Absolutely, Crystal. I think he said it really, really well. I think that something I say in the gym quite frequently is that training complexity comes by demand, not by request. There's a reason that when we start someone out, that it's general, basic, and simple. And as that goes along, the more complex it must become. And as you move from an intermediate to an advanced lifter. But so I would say that this is absolutely why people hire a coach, Byron, because
Yeah.
especially a starting strength coach, because as you reach that level in your training, unfortunately, there's not a checklist. If this happens, do this. If that happens, if A happens, do B. If B happens, do C. Unfortunately, it's not that chronologically effective. So your coach is going to understand what he's seeing out of you, right? He understands your baseline of training, and he understands, he'll look when the bar starts to slow down. Those are all things that are going to afford your coach information to continue to drive progress over time. And that's what we're really
Yeah.
talking about.
Exactly, yeah. So, Crystal, I hope that starts you off on the journey of moving into intermediate, and hope is a little bit useful for you. You know what to do if you're still stuck and that wasn't as clear as you'd like, so you know what the next move is to make. But in a second, we're going to get into one of the juicy parts of the Strength Club podcast. We're going to get into the form checks. But just to say, if you guys are struggling with your lifts or programming questions, etc., you can contact us through our social media channels, which we'll talk about later in the podcast. You can also reach out through the app. And I am doing camps. I am based in the UK for one-to-one coaching, but I'm also doing a couple of camps. I'll be in Australia in October, and I'll be in Auckland, New Zealand in November this year. Adam has got the gym at Atlanta, so he's always available in that location if you need to contact him, or if you need to reach out if you're in his time zone and it's convenient. He's a good man and he will help you. So without further ado, it's time to get into the meat of the show, Adam. We're going to get into the form checks, and we're going to look at the first one here. It comes in from Scott. So let's go ahead and have a look at the first video.
Mm-hmm. There's something right there that we'll call note 2 in a minute.
Okay, I can already see a few things happening here that we want to adjust in the movement, and also that one. There you go. Not so keen
Saw
on
that. Oh, I saw it again, didn't we?
So we got to help Scott out. We got to help Scott out.
All right. So Scott, first of all, let me preface our form check with you by saying that we appreciate your effort in training. We are so thrilled to see a barbell in your hands, my friend. Good on you for training. But what you've come to us today is to make some corrections to make your lifts more efficient and more effective. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So please take our comments as nothing but well intended. Byron, I'm going to turn that over to you. I know you and I are seeing the same things. We're reacting at the same times through the video. So let's first start with his setup and his hips, Byron. What do you think about his hips in that setup?
Yeah.
Even though
So
we
the
can't
first
see
thing to
them.
do, I know, yeah, but I can detect what you're detecting. So the first thing to do, I would say, is adjust the foot position and make sure that the hips are not too low. I think they're coming in too low for the start position. And the evidence of that, thank you, Mick, for freezing the video, is that anytime we see the knees poking out past the forearms, very easy to detect, guys, side on, if you need to check this in your own lifting. Once we see that, it's one of the dead giveaways that someone's probably dropped the hips down too low. I do think his stance is probably a bit wide as well, Adam, and so I'd probably grab those things straight away. Now, we do have some things to talk about in the movement, but before he's even lifted the barbell, I'd probably deal with those straight away.
Yeah, and the next thing that we've got right after we see that the hips are probably a little low, I'm certain of that. For instance, if you would stand up there, Scott, I would bet that your shins would be 6 inches from the bar. So that's going to tell us that the bar is not over the middle of your foot. So very, very, very out of the gate, we have an issue that is for sure going to reflect upstream in this lift. Now, I want you to watch what his arms do right before the pull. Mick, let this thing play through until you see a bend in his elbows. Nope, go back, all the way back. Keep going back from the setup. Nope, still back further. You'll see his elbows bend and like he's going to jerk. Now, even back further before he does that. Start it completely from the beginning of his setup.
There.
That right You see what his
Yeah.
elbows just did? You see those
Yeah.
elbows bending?
Yeah.
So he's getting ready to he in his brain, what he thinks is that the faster I can move this barbell, the more
Mhm.
chance I'm going to have of a successful repetition. But
Mhm.
remember something, my friend, when you jerk on the bar
Mhm.
jerks on you. Universal law of physics,
Mhm.
right? When you jerk on
Mhm.
something, something jerks on you. And that's where back tweaks happen, my friend. That's where
Mhm.
you get that old back tweak. You say, oh, I pulled a muscle. So we want to correct that. We should not see a bend in his wrist, right? We shouldn't see his wrist
Mhm.
in extension. Byron, I'll let you comment forward on that.
Yeah, and so one of the other evidences that will support the idea of the faster problem that Adam's talking about is that we've got what I would call a tap and go deadlift is what it turns into, and so this is a man who's rushing the set out. Mick, if you hit play on the video now, so you'll see after the setup, after this first rep or two, it goes into kind of a bounce off the ground and quickly get the lift up. Now we wouldn't normally have that in the gym. We would stop the lifter and have them reset for precision in between each rep. Okay. That as this is now going on, there's a checking behavior that he's building in, which is why his head is kind of ducking to the left and to the right. Again, I wouldn't have that scenario in a deadlift. I don't really want the head whipping around like that. So the way we deal with the head angle is identifying the position that the head's going to be at by looking at an object on the ground. So in a case like this, I would literally put an object on the ground, brightly colored, like a water bottle or anything that's brightly colored. That green clip that's on the rack would be good, and I'd have the lifter look right at that, and they're not allowed to whip the head around. But this tap and go issue is part of the speed issue, Scott. So you got to slow down and you need to be methodical with your setup for each and every rep of the deadlift. Okay, or there's going to be problems down the line that you don't want to have. All right. And
So,
do you want to talk about
so
shoes while we're at it?
Yeah, I feel like we say this so often.
I know.
I want you to imagine, just go with me here. Um, in England, it's football, right? It's
Yes,
soccer,
football.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
football. I know the
Okay.
way you are.
Now, imagine that you were watching these athletes play soccer, and a half a dozen of them came out barefoot. And they were
Mm,
like, I feel like when I run, my feet better contact the ground and provide grounding and all this stuff that you hear about. Um, there's the way things are, and there's a way that you think they are. Oftentimes, people that are
mhm,
deadlifting barefoot believes there's some inherent benefit to doing the lift barefoot. I'm here to tell you
mhm,
that the shoes do serve a purpose. The shoes are gonna provide some stability that you much need, and that the rest of your body are going to appreciate. Get you a pair of shoes, my friend. And I feel like something I say quite frequently. People that will often say, well, I do wear lifting shoes, but I take them off to deadlift. Because they believe that the half inch or sole is going to somehow drastically change their deadlift. By the time, if you're Hafthor Bjornsson, or Andy Bolton, or Eddie Hall, okay, maybe there's some benefit to not having a heel on a shoe, but if you're a novice, intermediate, or even advanced lifter for that matter, um, there are some compelling reasons why we want you in a shoe. Please, please, please put a shoe on. Not the least of which that something in the gym. There are things that will bite you, plates falling. You're around a lot of metal. We like to cover those toes because we'd like you to keep your toes. Uh, pretty simple. Byron, thoughts on shoes and exactly what I just
yeah.
illustrated there?
Yeah, so everything is exact as needed, but with one additional thing I'd like to add is the shoe versus a sock. When you look down at a sock, it's just a thing of cloth, and you don't really have any landmarks to look at. Now we've got an issue here, as you identified right out the gate, Adam, where we think the bar is not in the right position. Again, it's hard to get the bar in the right position when you look down at your foot if you've got no landmark. So a shoe also facilitates nice little landmark. You've got the lace holes, you've got the knot of the laces, you've got the strap that goes across, and it makes setting up against the bar so much easier, because now you look down, you can see exactly where the bar is in relation to the foot position. And once you've dealt with midfoot and the bar in the correct place, now you know the shins are going to be stopped as you come down. That's going to solve the hips issue that's higher up the chain, because as the shins contact it, you don't lower the hips anymore. And so all the way up the chain, this just kind of fixes things just from having a pair of shoes.
Yeah,
I tell
he's
you what,
absolutely right.
if I
Go
win the
ahead, Byron.
lottery, Scott, if I win the lottery, Scott, I'm just going to buy you and I will ship you a pair of lifting shoes, and then it's done, and we're
Done.
done, and that's that. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Lastly, thank you, Scott, for your video submission and giving us the opportunity to give you corrective feedback. I hope you find this helpful, and I hope it provides meaningful value in your training.
Yeah, yeah. Well done, Scott. Good luck. You know what to do now. Okay. We're going to go on to a series of 3 videos now from the same person, Michael. Michael has sent us in 3 videos. I believe here's the squat one. Okay. Okay, so I'm getting a feel for this one. Mick, can you just play the tape on this one from the very beginning? Because I want Adam to have a look at the setup and see where the bar position is, and just give me your thoughts on that, Adam.
Yeah, it looks like
Oh,
the
can you?
barbell to me. The barbell is most assuredly a little high. It's not quite
Yeah,
down in the position we would like it.
that's what I think. And so, Michael, if you're watching this video, go back to the Strength Club video before this one, and I did a whole thing talking about how to get the right position on your back, how to find that, and then how to get the bar in that position there. So definitely review that. That's on the previous episode of Strength Club, which we went into. So I won't repeat that again, but I agree. I noticed that as well, and I just think that's something that's pretty straightforward to sort out. And it's the work of a couple minutes, and then you're good to go. I think that the stance, Adam, I'm seeing some things in the legs, in the movement of the legs, and some knee cave happening in there. I think the stance might need an adjustment. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I suspect the stance is just a shade too wide. But in addition to
Mm,
that, I suspect the toe angle is a bit too great. If
mm,
you look at his knee position in the bottom, so I would love to see him tame those toes just a little bit, which means I would bring in his
mm.
toes ever so slight. And you're not talking about a
Yeah,
huge change. Look how his knees are inside of his toes.
yeah,
You see that?
consistently,
And
consistently. Yeah,
consistently, yeah, yeah. So
mm.
I would definitely suggest changing that.
Yeah. Mick, can you freeze the tape when Michael's at the bottom of the rep with his knees initially shoved out to that position? Just stop the tape there if you can for us. There. So if you can bring the toe angle a little bit in, and the stance in a little bit, and we'll get the knee and the toe angle to agree with each other. And that's going to be, like I say, I think I agree with that toe angle adjustment, and I'm good spot on that one. That was a bit wide. And that, yeah, heels a little closer together. That will sort that out right away. And it's probably going to be a preventative for the knees bowing inwards, which we don't really want, that kind of rotational, that kind of inwards movement as he's coming up. We can eliminate that. Okay, so at the top of the rep, you can just let the tape play now, Mick. At the top of the rep, I'll have to wind him back here. I just want to see his sort of start position. Do you feel he's a little bit kind of rounded in the thoracic, Adam? A little bit sort of like he could maybe get up a little bit tighter there in the top. His shirt's looking a little bit smooth to me. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to our point, if you bring that barbell down
Yeah.
another inch, I think that largely will fix that problem. Yeah, that little bit
Yeah.
of thoracic flexion you're seeing out of the bottom there, that's from the bar rolling up his back.
Yeah.
We would love to get that barbell into the right place. And hey, hats off to him, man. He's crafted a
Yeah.
decent squat here. This
Yes,
is
and it's
something.
moving nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 275 pounds as I
Mm.
read the bumper plates. So that said, the barbell's moving well. His movement is generally okay. That's something, Byron, that you and I would fix for him in person in the gym in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, the number 5 is exactly what dropped into my head when you started that sentence. I said about 5 minutes, and you confirmed
Yeah.
it. So, yeah, just a couple little things to tune up there, Michael, on that one. So we'll go ahead and take your, go ahead and look at your next video now, which I think is going to be a deadlift video, because there's a few things in here we want to deal with. All right.
Hmm.
I'm having flashbacks.
I am too.
I'm having a flashback.
So watch this top part of his pull. Watch the finish. There.
Yeah.
You see that?
Oh, oh, I
You
do
see,
see
it's a
that.
little hitch on every rep. He's got a little hitch
Oh,
every rep.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right. There's some pretty easily identifiable things here. Um,
Mm,
you know, so I want you to watch him as well. Watch him sit back on his heels whenever, right before he pulls, Byron. Watch him sit back onto his heels. Not that one. That one he did okay. It's his first rep. That one's
there.
okay. Now,
You can see the toe flip up a little bit there.
yes, yes, he's sitting back onto his heels on the initial rep. But
Mm,
what's of real concern here, my friend, is this little
mm,
hitch. Every
mhm,
single rep, we're in. What we want him to do, he's trying to immediately finish the rep. Give the deadlift time to mature, right? I
mm,
often say that in the gym. That means you've got to just stay in position and pull a little longer, and this thing's going to work itself out fine. Byron, you want to comment once
mm.
again on
Yeah.
the? I'm not sure where folks are picking up the bouncing of the plates. That is something that we often see done, and
Yeah.
whether this is good or bad, we often see this done in CrossFit communities. They'll, when they're doing something for time, they're bouncing the
Mm,
plate off the floor, and I could give you a whole host of reasons why that's not a good idea. But I'm assuming he's not a
mm.
CrossFit guy. He looks like a big, strong weightlifter. So let's
Yeah,
just
you feel
frame
like
up
one
and
of
see.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we just
absolutely.
we just sort this thing out. So Michael, as you saw already from the last form check we just did, we don't want the touch and go deadlift. We don't want that tap and go because we want you to reset in between each of the lifts. And the issue that as the barbell approaches and passes the knees, you get that kind of double knee bend, that what we call a hitching, where you're trying to now just kind of jerk that thing up the legs to just complete that rep. We can pretty much rectify that, and it comes from getting you to desist with the idea of rushing the deadlift and doing a touch and go, because once you've got yourself set correctly and your back set into extension, you're going to be able to hold that back position. Now, it's hard to it's hard sometimes to explain the process and it doesn't always come alive, but the good news is that Rip has a great article on the Starting Strength website. If you just go into the search box for the articles on the Starting Strength website and just type in deadlift and hitching, type in those keywords, that article will come right away and it will unpack the anatomy in detail of what's happening and why you've got yourself a problem. But in a nutshell, we need to make sure that you stop with the tap and go, that you set correctly into the start position. And that means getting your back in extension all the way down, including the lower back. As that is coming unlocked, that is contributing to the problem of this unwanted hitching that you've got. So the correct setup will put you in a position where you can initiate each one of the reps of the deadlift, and it will go a long way to eliminating the hitching issue. Adam, do you have any fast cues that you use when you see a hitch deadlift that you sometimes pull out that might be useful now? Any verbal cues at all?
I do, Byron.
Mm,
Now, I hope it's not overly technical for our
mm.
purposes here, but I say it's a kind of 4 words I use. Don't do that shit.
I think I
Stop it.
just
Cut
saw.
it out.
I think I just saw the clip of the week that's going to be put into a 30-second, very shareable social media clip. Hello, friends on social media. I know you saw that
Yeah.
one.
Don't do that shit. Cut it out. I have a taser in the gym, and anytime I see it,
Ah,
it usually only happens once. I gouge them with the taser, and it
mm,
provides that impulse of electricity. and then from then on they just stop hitching. Seriously. So what we'll say: stay in the pull, stay in the pull longer, right? To get rid of that hitch. That hitch is not a that is it's not effective at all. And we'll point back to Rip's article. By the way, that just appeared again on Starting Strength's main website in the right in last week. So go back and read that, my friend. It's going to give you a litany of reasons as to why we want you to cut that out. Stop that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we'll have a look at Michael's press video next, if that's okay, Adam. We'll move on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Here
Do
we
it.
go.
Mm-hmm.
See, he's got plenty of strength on him, hasn't he? He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's a naturally big guy. He's got plenty of strength, and look how fast that barbell is going. So he's whipping that thing up there, no problem. And the funny thing about the press is, as I say to people when they come in for coaching, as I say, the setup is so important. When you get your hands on the bar and you position yourself against the barbell in the rack, if we just get that right for you, so that by the time you walk out into the start position, if we've got the correct start position, that is a really useful thing in the press, because if we have an error or an issue in the start position, it will most likely follow you into the movement when it comes to the press.
Yeah. So there's something else right here, Byron. Let's put the bar
Mm-hmm.
back in the rack, Mick. Put the bar back in the rack and pause it right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there. That's great. I want you to look at how low that barbell is, right? I
Mm-hmm.
would love to see him bring the J hooks up a couple of
Mm-hmm.
spaces. Now I see why he can't. You see how he has the
He's
J
got
hooks here
something on
with
the rack.
the plate holders.
Mm.
Take those off, bud. Take those off so
Mm.
that you can raise your J hooks up,
Mm-hmm.
and put that thing up where that barbell meets you more at your sternum. And right now, it's probably under your pec muscles. It's probably
Mm.
it's your upper abdomen if he would stand up really tall. And look how far he's got to bend to get under that. Now, my friend, that
Yeah.
will work
Yeah.
at 95 pounds or 90. Looks like he's got some micro plates on there, maybe 99 pounds, whatever's on there. And you're not ready for micro plates on this yet either, but that's a programming issue. A weight that moves that easily should not have
Yeah.
any micro plates on it, right? I mean, you should still be in 5 pound increments.
Yeah.
But it's the setup's problematic from the very beginning. It's like he
Mm.
never really gets set under the barbell. I always make sure, Michael, that when I'm doing my presses or coaching my clients in the gym, I always make sure to get my setup as tight as I can before I unrack that barbell in my hands, because that heavy barbell is going to make it damn tough to wiggle around and situate yourself with the rigidity that we need. You agree, Byron?
Absolutely. Yeah. The press is very unforgiving, and it does not tolerate much deviation away from what's optimal at all. And again, when it starts getting heavy, it will let you know right away there's a problem. So, Mick, what we'll do here, just have him come up to the bar and pause as he's getting the bar in the rack. He hasn't walked it out yet. Just freeze frame him about here. So,
See, that's a
I think,
terrible position right there.
yeah, it's not a nice unrack. Look at how his legs are kind of bowed out, and it's all just kind of trying to squeeze in there. So, as Adam said, I concur. Raise the hooks up at least one and possibly two settings so that you don't have to contort yourself down into that position, Michael. Secondly, your grip is a little bit wide. We need to bring your grip in a bit closer for you. All right. We want the grip closer to your shoulders. So start sliding the grip in closer. Maybe, what do you think, Adam? 2 finger widths closer, maybe 3?
Two for sure, Byron. I was looking at that. It's very difficult to tell the barbell. A lot of times I'll utilize
Yeah.
the knurling to kind
Yeah.
of give me an idea of where the grip is, but I'm not sure what kind of barbell
Yeah.
that is. But
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, he needs to bring that grip in a little bit. And once again, we hate to refer you to another one of our articles, but we have an article out there Michael, when you set that barbell in your hand, we want the
Mhm,
barbell resting down
mhm,
here. We don't want the barbell
mhm,
here, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
it doesn't do me any good to tell you about the setup. It's very clear. We've got it out there on YouTube. Just Google starting strength press, and
mhm.
everything you need to know will be there. Rip has done this ad nauseum.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so get hold of that video and rewatch that. Have that on your phone in the gym and literally practice it step by step, Michael, and you'll get that grip and that start position just nicely. Yeah, but we do need to get your grip in closer. We're going to adjust the way that you take the grip, and then why don't we take it into the movement a little bit, Adam? Because I know we don't have the hips action at the moment,
Yeah.
so I'm not going
So
to
what
worry
we
about that
have there
just yet. But
what we have here, my friend Michael, is you are doing more of a 1.5 press. I would like to see him utilizing our. There's no reason this big, strong, healthy guy couldn't give us a good press 2.0. But I
mm,
suspect he just does not understand the movement. See, when he's pressing, watch his
mm,
hips coming back,
mm,
right? We
yeah,
would love to see him reset, brace, move the hips forward and drive the bar. Reset, move the hips forward and drive the bar. Um,
hmm
Slowing him down a little bit and teaching him the movement. That's really what he needs. So again, we've that information is out there, very very clear. Our press 2.0 is what you need to be following, Michael. In my estimation, if you were my trainee, that's I would be teaching the press 2.0 for you.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, and he's gonna do really well from it as well. So, okay, Michael,
Well, he's
we've
got a
got the
ton of
notes.
potential.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
got
With
a ton
that
of
build,
potential.
yeah, 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 absolutely. So, Michael, thank you for sending the videos in for us. I hope those tips are very helpful for you. And if they are, for anyone who submitted a video, or if you're watching these on something like YouTube and you've got a question because you're not sure about something we've said, you can just drop us a comment in there and we'll try to check the comments on YouTube and just reply to you and help you get unstuck or clarify anything if anything's not clear. But now it's time to move on to the next video. We got Tom next. Now, Adam, Tom is someone who's sent us a video before, and just to let
Yeah.
you know, this is deliberate. Now he's going to pause at the bottom, and that is deliberate, just for this variation, because we were working on a few things with him. For those of you that are just kind of new to the lifting, we would actually tell you not to pause at the bottom like Tom is doing here. Okay, so you just go ahead and squat down and just come straight back up once you've hit depth. So we are looking at a pause squat in the video. So, Adam, I'm just thinking
Pretty.
here, how do you go on?
Are you going to ask me how do I feel about his stance?
Yeah, I didn't even get the words out, but yes, that's what I was thinking, Adam. I was thinking that.
Yeah, I suspect I agree with you, Byron. I suspect we number one. Let me just tell this gentleman, my friend, that's a pretty damn good looking squat you've got right there.
Yeah.
Um, I would move those heels in just a bit. I wouldn't
Mm,
overdo it because we're going to end up too close, but about an half inch each heel, I would say is where I would start. And I think he's on his way to a
mm.
damn good squat.
Yeah, he's doing everything right. Um, my thing for you, Adam, is how do you feel about the length of the pause? How long do you like a pause to be on a pause squat?
Just to the point where the where movement stops, right? They don't need to
Yeah, me
hang
too.
out down there. Just to the point
This,
where the movement stops and return.
yeah, this feels a little
Um,
long to me when he's down there, a little bit longer than I'd like.
it does for me too. Now, I am
Mm,
not in my own training or most of my members' trainings. I do not use tons of pause squats.
mm,
Now I do use them on occasion, but not tons of them. So I'm assuming that he's just going to go right back to squatting as we would like it. But I love the depth looks good here. You're going to see hip
mm,
crease drop in just below top of the knee. Lumbar spine looks good here. Thoracic
mm.
spine looks good. Elbows look good. Eye gaze looks good. I mean, a
Yeah.
number of really good things here, my friend. You are well on your way. This is looking good.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I say, Tom, he was on the show before. I think the first one we did, Adam. So he's only had one. I don't want to get carried away here, but we've only seen Tom once before to help him get along to that adjustment there. So I'm really happy with the improvement and the progress that he's picked up really quickly. So I'm just loving that. I'm loving that the changes are kicking in that fast. Now, I think we actually have I think we have two videos sometimes, so I think we'll get a little deadlift video next, if I'm not mistaken. Mick, go
Sure,
ahead if we've got
sure,
that.
do it.
Yeah, so have a look here.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I've just got a couple of things here to just tidy up with him. Adam, I would say the hip position, that in the start position there, the hips are coming in a little bit low. Knees, we'd probably get those pulled back a little bit, just adjust that so the knees are inside of the forearms, and just making it a bit smoother. He's a little bit jerky with the barbell. Do you feel he's a little bit kind of tugs on it a little bit?
Absolutely. I thought the same thing. I would like to see that point where the bar leaves the floor just a little smoother, and he could accomplish
Mm,
this just by continuing to raise the chest. He's doing a damn good job getting his back set. And if you and I were coaching him in person, Byron,
mm,
we would tell him the same thing: raise those hips, pull the bar back,
mm,
right? We would tell him the
mhm,
same thing. But you're
mm,
right; he's kind of jerking a little bit on the barbell. I'd
mm,
like it to be
mm.
just a little jerky, just a little smoother. And I want you to think about, my friend, continuing to raise the chest throughout the pull.
Yeah, that will nicely take the slack out of the system. So the barbell is going to start to feel heavy in the hands. If you're looking at if you're filming from the front, you may even see the bar just flex, just bend just a little bit. As it gets heavier, you'll see it bend a little bit more. And those are signs that you've got everything set. And if you have that opportunity to hear the barbell, that kind of little clicking sound it makes as the bar kind of engages when you're setting up, that's when you'll hear the bar, that little, we call it the click. You'll hear it there before the plates come up off the ground. Okay. So you'll get click first and then the bar will move. So if you're watching deadlift with sound or in the room with someone, if you see the bar starts coming up, the plates leave the ground, and then you get that little clicking sound, tells you the slack wasn't completely taken out. You go back to Adam's cue, lift the chest a little more, get set, heavy in the hands, and then you're good to go. Okay. Thoughts, Adam?
Well, Byron, I've got a lot of thoughts about a lot of things, but as it relates to this deadlift, once again, he's well on his way. Fix a couple of little things, my friend, and that deadlift's going to look good. And you're going to grow old, and you're going to grow virile, and you're going to stay strong, and life's going to look good. Just fix that deadlift, and all things in your life will just clean up amazingly.
Absolutely. All right. I think we're ready for the next video. This is, I'm not sure on the name here, but it's written as MT McGill. MT McGill.
Oh, MT McGill. Oh, MT McGill's a
Mm.
healthy fella. He looks like he knows his way around
Yeah.
the weight room, doesn't he? I expect
Yeah.
to see a great deadlift here, MT McGill.
Mm-hmm.
I see he knows our setup. Do you see that? Do you see
Mm-hmm.
how?
Yeah.
Well, okay, all right. We've got a heavy set here, so let's see what he does with
Mm.
him.
I'll just chime in here and say we form checked this guy about 2 weeks ago, so I think this might be another one where he's implemented
Ah.
your guys' fixes.
All right. Thank you, Mick. So
Hmm.
we believe we've seen him before.
Hmm.
Ah, yes.
I see.
Ah,
I
yes.
see the problem here. I see the problem.
Hang on,
He
I
is at a
forgot. Hang
kettlebell
on.
club.
The diagnosis is certain. Okay, I just realised he's written in a little note to us, so I'll just read this out as well because I nearly forgot. He says, "Hi again. I'm waiting for my shoes to be delivered. Hence, no shoes. Sorry. I failed in this 132.5 kg, and I always seem to struggle with my deadlift. Some of which may be because I'm scared of hurting my back, and I give up." Last year, my squat surpassed my deadlifts by 10 kilograms. Any help appreciated? Well,
Okay, so we'll do what we can for you, McGill. McGill,
yep.
MT, you whatever you go by, bud. So watch him
Mm,
how he loads these hamstrings up. Okay.
Mm,
Let's go back through and watch him again. Watch this, how he never really fully pushes the floor away. Watch how much the hamstrings are doing and the quadriceps are still not. It's because he's pulling the bar off the floor, not pushing.
mm,
You see his
mm-hmm,
legs just immediately straighten out and his chest drops down.
mm-hmm. Do you see his upper back
That'll
as well?
Yeah, it'll look like an RDL a little bit, right?
Mm,
His deadlift, it turns into kind of an
mm,
RDL below his knee.
mm, mm,
Watch the knees will shoot back. Now we got an RDL. You see that?
mm, mm. And that's a
He
much harder.
never.
Yeah.
So
So
a couple of things. My friend, you're a strong guy. That's clear. Okay, but this can be made incredibly more efficient. I would like to see you take just a little more effort in flattening that back for me. I would like to see that back become a tabletop. Now, you're not completely missing it, and it's obvious you're familiar with our setup. I can watch you walk up to the bar and know that. But you're really
mm,
going to have to do a better job in getting that back set and really embrace the idea of the quadriceps from off the floor. You got to push that floor away. You got to push
mm,
that floor away. And also, his grip is becoming an issue. You can see that he never really owns the barbell in grip after the first rep. Watch him. You can just see him
mm.
thinking about his grip.
Let's have a look.
You see what I'm saying? You watch him when he
Yeah.
puts it down. Just see the grip is an issue. See the grip? How he never really
Yeah.
fully locks it out? It's because the bar is dropping out of his
Mm.
hands. Get you
Yeah.
a pair
Good
of
spot,
straps,
Adam.
supine grip, whatever.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we gotta get that grip kind of resolved. Or chalk. I don't know. I don't. It doesn't even. I don't. I doubt. I don't know. Do kettlebell gyms use chalk? I would think so, but
Yeah, they probably have. They probably have. That looks like a decent gym to me. I reckon they can. You can just use chalk in there. So what I think I'm seeing him that's kind of like getting him a little bit stuck here is, Mick, can you hit freeze on the tape when he's at the bottom before he brings it up? So he's finished all the setups, but he has not brought the bar up yet. Here. So what I think is going on is I got this feeling that that you were saying about the grip issue. I think he's got a lot of tension in the arms. They're really, really tight. If the forearm and the upper arm, if they're really tight, then what's happening is if you're so squeezing there, you're trying to lift up your chest. But if the arm is taut, you can't actually get the chest up and set the back into position. Okay. So what I'm going to suggest to try, MT, is to keep your grip on the bar, but keep your arms loose. Okay, so as you set up, you'll take your grip. All right, you'll bring your shins to the bar. You keep your arms loose so you can waggle your arms. And now, as you begin to lift your chest up, now your arms will go straight. Okay, so we'll go tight grip, loose arms is the cue. You lift the chest, the arms will now straighten up. Now you can get into extension. You can get the back flattened out, and now it's time to transition into the leg drive, as Adam said. And you think quads and you drive like crazy. Okay, I think that will do it. I've got a feeling he's too tight in the arms, Adam, and he can't get set.
And last thing, MT, and let me just reiterate this. This is critical for you. I want you to take just a half a second longer and squeeze up just a little harder. That marries right up to your comment, Byron. I want you to squeeze that chest up a little more. I know you feel like you're squeezed up. I know you feel like you're uncomfortable, but the deadlift kind of the more uncomfortable you are, the more correct it probably is. Um, and especially for big guys, Byron, like me, I'm telling you, man, I really have to every single rep. I have to be very cognizant of the back set because I have to work at it. I really, and that's something I had to work to learn as a lifter myself. When I first started my journey with starting strength, I did a poor job of getting my back set. And I looked for every reason that I could not to do it. But it really comes down to effectiveness and efficiency. We have to get that back set.
Yeah, Yeah. It's just, yeah, it's a prerequisite. Okay, well, I hope that helps you out, MT McGill. Good luck with the deadlifting. Keep us posted on how it goes. We're going to move on to the next one now, which is from Stephen. And Stephen has also written to us as well. I quite like it when you guys send us a little note as well. I appreciate that. Here we go. So, hello, this is Stephen from Virginia. About 3 months into the NLP, and this is my third set. We're going to see some squats. No lifting shoes yet. I have limited shoulder mobility. What you are seeing is where I am after doing the pull horn warm up sets, and 2 working sets. Any advice on how to get my grip closer would be great too. Thanks. So let's have a look at this.
He's actually looking pretty good here, Byron. I see a lot of good
Yeah,
things in this squad.
yeah, yeah. There's a couple
See
of things
some
we can
things.
tidy up. I do think when his shoes arrive, that's going to really help as well, because even with this kind of shoe, this kind of Converse All Star shoe, is still a little bit squidgy, and the foot can still move around. And I'm seeing a little bit of eversion going on, which is when the foot can move a little bit there. So that will probably, hopefully, clear that right up as well. So what do we do, Adam, when we got a guy who's not got great shoulders and we need to get the grip in tighter? Um, what do you like? What are
Oh,
your things?
well, it just so happens, Stephen, you and I have very much the same issue. And you may never get that grip in any more than it is. Here's the thing about life, my friend. Ideally, we would bring those hands in another 2 inches, and it would really tighten that upper back a little more. But few things in life are ideal. So
Mm.
that means we might have to just settle kind of for what we have there. But like you, Steve or Steven, I want to make sure I'm calling him by the right name.
I've got Stephen on the email here. I've got
Yeah.
Stephen on the sheet he sent us. Yeah.
Like you, Stephen, I struggle with that as well, my friend, and it takes me several sets to
Mm.
really get set up. The one thing that may help you just a little bit, and sometimes in commercial gym, those J hooks, one setting can be too low, and the next setting up can be too high. You see how that has a big lip on that J hook? That lip's probably
Hmm.
2 inches or something. Um, what I did was raise the bar one more, which brought it to the higher part of my chest and my sternum. That really helped me with that limited shoulder mobility. That might be something I really suspect he could probably come up one with that, maybe. But again, the next one up might be too high.
Mm.
So the other thing
What
I
do
can't
you?
help but notice, huh?
Go
Go
on.
ahead, Byron. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just staying on the grip for a second. What do you think about indicating a thumbs around grip for Stephen? How do you feel about with that? Do you use that at all yourself, or?
Yeah, well, yes.
Mm.
Initial warm ups I do, but by the time I get to my work sets, I'm usually okay, thumbs over at that point. I don't
Mm.
know that there's a lot of need to change his grip all the way around. There
Mm.
are some things you can do, Stephen. Maybe chalk the upper back a little bit, kind of to aid the barbell to stabilize there a little more. But again, bringing his grip in anymore, Byron, what that's going to do is that's going to just begin pushing the bar up his back. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's just start
Yeah.
pushing the bar.
Excuse me.
The
Yeah,
and
I
he
think so.
So Stephen, I suspect you've already had this problem, but you're torquing your elbows in
Mm.
as you're descending into the squat. You're torquing those elbows down, and I'm afraid that that's going to lend itself to some tendonitis in the future. So yeah, I would really like to see you put those elbows in place and keep them there. Watch the elbow, Byron. You'll see them start to drop. Look at the
Mhm.
left whenever
Yeah, no, I
see
can
it
see it.
drop.
I can see it. I can see it. I wonder if, do you think the bar could be a hair too low on his back? Mick, could you wind the tape back so where Stephen gets under the bar for us? Just to see, have a look, Adam. What do you think?
It's so difficult to tell. There it is for sure. But I
That
think he
looks low to
makes
me.
a little adjustment. Let's see if he makes a little adjustment to the bar right before he unrocks.
I'm not
It,
convinced. I'm not convinced. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'd be right on top of him if I was in that gym with
I
you, Adam.
I would too. I would
I'd
like to
get a
see it
good look
from
at that.
this direction, right? I would like to be
Mm,
looking down to see if that barbell's. Um, it could be a shade low, Byron.
mm.
I can definitely see that he's probably. You know, maybe a around grip here might actually be appropriate, Byron, to your
Mm,
point. Looking at his elbow, considering what his elbow's doing, and he just
mm,
looks generally uncomfortable, doesn't he? He looks like he's just
mm.
generally uncomfortable.
Yeah, I definitely do not want to see this turn into a case of elbow tendonitis or some kind of pain somewhere from this thing. So I definitely think it's worth addressing that, Steve, in one way or the other. Let me just clarify something for the viewers of the podcast. So if we have a scenario where you are a bigger built person, you don't have great shoulder mobility, and your grip is out wider and you have got a wider grip. I don't know if you're going to see me on the podcast as I do this. So we got a wider grip position. Let me be clear with you. If the hands are wider, you can still squeeze your shoulders together. So if everyone wants to do this with me, you put your hands out a little bit wider, but you can still retract, squeeze together the shoulder blades, and you will still need to do this. So wide hands isn't excuse for just let the shoulder blades spread out like that. You still have to puff your chest out, even if your grip is wider, because we must keep the barbell secure on your back in that position. What was the tip you gave about that? Did you say chalk the shirt, Adam? I can't remember what you said a second ago.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit of chalk on his upper back,
Yeah.
generally where the bar would be placed. Sometimes that
Mm.
little bit of chalk will just allow the
Mm.
barbell to hang in there a little bit
It just it's
in a position that's
yeah,
a
and this
little bit less than ideal.
the other thing I'll sometimes do as well is I'll put some sport tape on the bar as well. If you've got a bar with no knurling, and the thing is, in some commercial gyms, some of the knurling on the bars is so smooth it may as well be coated in butter. So there, I
Yes.
might put a little bit of sport tape on there, and that will just kind of hold against the shirt a bit nicer. So this is all kind of like start position, what we call setup work that we're dealing with here. I think there's a little something in the depth of the squat item to have a look at as well. Can we see the tape again, Mick? I felt like it might be a little bit high on some of this, so we'll just have a
Yeah,
look
let's look at.
here.
Yeah, that was close. That's close.
Hmm. So he's not a million
Ah,
miles off, but I can see there's some work to do on the depth there.
yep, yep. I mean, another inch into that would be wonderful. Now, Stephen, don't let us say that and then overdo it, because we are talking about ever so slight, letting that hip continue to drop into that hole. Um, and you're going to
Hmm.
have to do this, my friend. If you don't have a coach, you really are going to. You need to set up your camera at hip height, video each one of your sets, and then between sets, I want you to watch that video. Make the determination as to whether or not your hip crease drops just below the top of the knee. That is the standard. We must achieve this. So no reason he wouldn't. It just he needs to be mindful of it, Byron.
Yeah, yeah, I agree on that one. Okay, right. That is all the form checks done for today. So, if people want to see you lifting, Adam, if they need to get in touch with you, how do they find you in Atlanta?
Yeah, so I own and operate starting strength gyms in the Atlanta area. Right now, we're opened on 9775 Medlock Bridge Road in Johns Creek, Georgia, which is a beautiful suburb of Atlanta. We'd love you have you stop by and see us. You can also follow me on Instagram at Adam_Martin_SSC. I post there quite a bit. You could also follow our Instagram or Facebook pages for Starting Strength Atlanta as well. We'd love to interact with you, and we'd love to have you interact with our information. And we do try to keep posts there up to date and active, so that we're constantly putting out good information as it relates to the most amazing strength program ever created, Starting Strength.
Excellent. And if for those of you in the UK or beyond, I'm at Strength Revolution Coaching on Instagram and the social medias, or you can just find me on my website, strengthrevolution.org, strengthrevolution.org. So that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Strength Club podcast. Again, if you hit like and subscribe, that really helps us out. If you've got a question on one of the form checks there, you can drop us a comment, or you can reach out through the Starting Strength app if you'd like to send us in a video to help you out, or even if you have any questions about your lifting. But for now, I think we'll both sign off. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again for the next episode of The Strength Club.